So what are my passions? Well, let's see. Let me begin by telling you a story about a passion that I once had, still do, basketball. I was a member of the New York Knicks basketball team for 10 years. We frequently beat the Lakers and the Celtics. So it's a good New York crowd, good. And I remember one night we were playing in Chicago, and after the game, I went to a party at a friend's apartment. And a guy came up to me and he said, "Bill, you really like to play basketball?" And I said, "Yeah, more than anything else I could be doing right now, I like to play basketball." He said, "You know, I think I know what you feel like." Because I once played the trumpet. And we were good. We had a band in college. And we toured. A lot of people came. Afterwards, we had some offers for contracts to record. And my father, though, thought that I should, it was kind of an insecure profession, that I should go to law school. So I went to law school, and now I'm a lawyer. Have been for 10 years. I said, "Do you like the law?" He said, "Well, yeah, but nothing like playing the trumpet." So for 10 years, I played my trumpet in Madison Square Garden and in arenas around the country where I made my living in short pants in those drafty arenas. And then after 10 years, I ran for the U.S. Senate and was elected the youngest member of the Senate. And when I came, I'd never been in a legislative body, so I was somewhat disoriented. And I got my legs about the third month I was in the Senate when I was in the Democratic cloakroom, which is like the locker room off the floor of the Senate. There's a Republican in a Democratic cloakroom. It's about 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was looking around the cloakroom, and here was somebody who was pacing, another person who was sitting quietly, another person who was telling a joke, another person who was animately engaged in conversation, another person who was just silent and looking at the wall. And I thought to myself, you know, this isn't a lot different than the Knick locker room. And in fact, it wasn't. I was there for 18 years. Successful legislating is much like team basketball. It's about getting people from different backgrounds with different personal agendas to come together and agree on a common objective and then to work to achieve it. And that's what I did for 18 years, representing New Jersey in the Senate, interested in all those issues that caught Walt Mossberg's attention, and had a terrific time in taxes, international finance and trade, security policy. And then in 1990, I had a close call and re-election. In 1992, my wife developed breast cancer. And I started to ask myself questions that I had never asked myself before, such as, is this the best way I could be spending my time? Make no mistake, I think being a United States Senator is the best elective job in the world. But I determined that it was time for me to leave. So I said in 1995 that I wasn't going to run again for re-election to the Senate, and that I was leaving the Senate but not leaving public life, and that I was leaving the Senate to do some things that I couldn't do if I was spending 13 or 14 hours a day in committees, subcommittees, and caucuses in the United States Senate and traveling back and forth to New Jersey. My record is 3 round trips in 1 day. And only happened twice, but twice is enough. And so I left to do things that I couldn't do if I was in the Senate. What are those things? One is to try to figure out where this economy is headed in terms of technological change, in terms of globalization. Second is to try to make democratic reform, particularly the role of money in politics, change sufficiently so that it doesn't distort the process. The third is to try to make racial unity in America a common sense notion. And fourth is to think more clearly about America's role in the world And fifth is to try to elevate the circumstance of America's children today to a higher level so we all understand that we have some responsibility for each other. So that's what I wanted to do, and I left and tried to put together a life that allowed me to do that. So now I'm at Stanford at the Institute of International Studies. I'm at the University of Maryland's Academy of Leadership. I work for J.P. Morgan as the Vice Chair of the International Council, for Gartner Group as an associate, and also for CBS, where on weekends I do essays in a segment called Where We Are, meaning where we are as a country. In addition, I do speaking and writing. Now my wife says, oh, you gave up one profession and took 5. Which is true to a certain extent, but there's not enough time in a day right now. Everything that I do, I love. And it makes a significant difference. Not that I didn't like everything in the Senate. I liked 70, 75%. But now it's 98%. It's a tremendous growth. It's a tremendous opportunity to learn, which is basically, I guess, why many of you are here, why I came here. And to me, it's a period unlike any other in my life. And I have had people come up, even in this break, and ask me, well, do I miss the Senate? And my answer is no, I don't miss the Senate. I've missed the Senate one day. Now, maybe one of the reasons I haven't missed the Senate is because I wrote a book, by the way, it's still available, called Time Present, Time Past, that put that experience in perspective. And in writing it and finding the language to describe that experience of being a public official in the 80s and 90s, it allowed me to close that experience. And then one other thing allowed me to do that, and that was the last week I was there. I was seated in my office, the physical space that I had been in for 14 years. And the next morning they were coming to take my furniture, and I sat at my desk and telephoned 15 or 20 people that I felt particularly close to in my Senate years and thanked them for that relationship. And then I had a good cry, allowed myself to grieve about this closure, then got up, turned the lights out, and walked out. And the next morning when I came back, the furniture was gone, and it was a new life. The chapter had closed. So I think that that's maybe why I don't think or wish or miss the Senate these days. So I'm out doing what I think I need to do right now. And clearly, one of my interests is trying to figure out where this whole information revolution is going. People in this room understand it. The last panel understands it infinitely better than I could possibly understand it, because let me make an admission. In this book that I wrote, Chapter 17 dealt with the economy, particularly maybe elements of the information economy. And I made an admission in that book that I said, I'm not a child of the information revolution. And if you've read this far in the book, though, I'll make an admission. I wrote the entire book with number 2 pencils. I took such heat, which is true, I took such heat for that I decided I had to change, as we all do at one point or another in our lives. And so, I took my lessons. I was the 3rd senator to have a website. I began to get about 300 or 400 emails a week. I have now my own website now that I'm out, and I'm kind of into it to the extent that you can, given the level of knowledge that I have. And it seems to me that clearly it's going to affect the economy in really ways that are profound and deep, some of them positive, most of them positive. It's going to affect our democracy, which is one of the things that I'm most interested in, possibly good. The question really is, what will it mean? Will it bring us together? Will it allow us to enlarge the public square and exchange ideas more effectively and more candidly? Or will it tribalize us into little groups where we only talk to people who agree with what we think? At a minimum, I think it offers a lot more positive potential than negative potential. And I even suggested in my second lecture at Stanford that there'll come a time when we might be voting on the internet, and maybe by that time we'll have more than 49% of the eligible voters actually vote in a presidential election. But the other aspect that strikes me, and I have come into contact with this most directly in my work with the Third Age, where I do a column once a month, is that it might help us in what I perceive to be going on in the country everywhere I go, and that is a search for some meaning in life that is deeper than the material. And I sense this everywhere I go. I mean, whenever I go into a town, I try to speak with some religious leaders, because I think, they understand, they're in touch with people, in touch with their pain, their hopes, their dreams, their suffering, their joys. And they also understand the power of parable. And so I spend time with them to listen. And I was pushing this one group in Denver not so long ago, ecumenical in nature. And I said, so you really believe that people are searching for meaning deeper than the material, more than they have been in the past? And a Catholic sister shot back like a left jab to my jaw. Of course they are, Senator. Why do you think there's a perfume called eternity? Right? And it's out there, though. It's out there. And it seems to me that the effect of that search sometimes puts us in touch with things that are larger than we are and things that last longer than we do. And it also, from my perspective, allows you to ask yourself the question about, well, what means something in your life? And I find that the smallest thing with meaning is more important than the largest thing without meaning. And when I said I was leaving the Senate, I was struck by the number of people who came up to me after I'd announced I was leaving the Senate, but still talked about the things that I felt deeply about. They came up to me and they said, so you really believe what you've been saying about race all these years, or the middle class all these years? And I said, yeah, I really believe it. And slowly it struck me that there was a power to giving up power, and that I was experiencing that in a kind of unexpected way. So what I'm doing now is trying to figure out how to use that newfound power. It's an exciting moment in my own life, and one that I thought I'd share with all of you. Thank you.